if I could let you relive any one of the interviews again, which one would you choose?
I'd like to get the Meg Ryan one right. I mean, we're both in a fairly grim mood, I think, for various reasons. Boyfriend had left and all that. The film she was promoting, she knew wasn't very good.
What Michael Parkinson is referring to in that clip is the infamously awkward interview Meg Ryan gave on his British TV show.
If you were me, what would you do now?
Well, just wrap it up.
She was doing the talk show rounds to advertise a movie called In the Cut, directed by Jane Campion, which Michael Parkinson wrongly calls not very good.
Maybe that's why audiences didn't warm to In the Cut. A disastrous TV interview between an aggressive Michael Parkinson and an out-of-her-depth Meg Ryan made awkward international headlines, helping to cement the idea that the film was somehow trashy, something to be sneered at. The truth, however, is far more complicated, and the initial negative responses say more about the chauvinistic prejudices of those who dismissed the movie as a misstep for both director and star than it does about the filmmakers who were willing to take a risk and who created something genuinely remarkable and deeply unsettling.
A New York writing teacher gets tangled up in a murder investigation after a severed hand is discovered near her apartment. She falls into a risky relationship with the detective on the case, and the closer she gets to him, the more she suspects he might be the killer.
I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting to try something altogether new? So I spent about 2 years reading absolutely every kind of detective and crime fiction I could find, everything. And also I read a lot of pornography and a lot of erotica. I thought, what would it be like if a woman wrote a noir novel, which is customarily written by a man? And also I was interested in writing about sex because I didn't think it had been done much, and I didn't think it had been done very well.
They have a very hot, sexy love affair that in the end changes them both, I think.
It's pretty outrageously sexual too, you know? So a lot of stuff I've never done on screen before.
Much ado was made about the nudity in this film at the time it was released. The film could not be mentioned without it being said that Meg Ryan was dropping her sweetheart image, having been mainly known for making rom-coms before this. But this was actually far from Ryan's first dramatic role, and the film was much more interesting than the navel-gazing around it.
What was so interesting about playing her for me is that normally, almost all the time, I've played very exterior people. This is almost like a silent movie for me. She doesn't talk, she doesn't dance, she doesn't but it's a very interior character. I read the screenplay first, and I felt like I hadn't been in a universe like this. I had never gone to a theater and been in this particular universe, though I felt that in some part of my dream life, I felt like it was very familiar.
The film is also shot using tilt-shift lenses, which creates this almost drunken feel as the characters wander in and out of focus.
Tell me about how Jane Campion's collaboration with you came about. How did In the Cut go from being a book to being Jane Campion's film?
It was bought by Nicole Kidman, and when Nicole dropped out, Jane cast Meg Ryan, who, doing publicity for the film, had an interview with Michael Parkinson, which ended very badly. And she, to this day, believes that it ended her career.
I can only find edited chunks of that interview, and without the full footage, it makes it look like Parkinson was the better. But I do remember watching it at the time it was broadcast, and I'm thinking Parkinson is dismissing everything she says. And personally, when someone does that to me, I start thinking, well, if my answers aren't good enough for you, I won't say anything.
And I do totally appreciate the film as a kind of a deconstruction of romantic fantasy and women's, romantic ideals of marriage and that sort of thing. But for me, the erotic elements of the film are undercutting the thrilling elements of the film and vice versa. What I mean by that is every time they're kind of going at it in a sex scene, you're sort of thinking, guys, don't you want to, change the locks or get on with investigating this serial killer that's on the loose in the neighbourhood? But no, I'm thinking, is this really sexy? You're having sex, but you've just been looking at a dismembered corpse in a laundrette.
But that, in a way, I think the centre of the erotic thriller is to do with the tension between those elements. I think, weirdly, this feeds into why the Michael Parkinson interview was so awkward. Because he actually says at one point, it's like we've seen different films. Meg Ryan is talking about it very eloquently, and he he is like
They
talking.
have seen different
They have
films,
seen
yeah.
different films, and what he can't get his head round is why hasn't she seen the same film that I'm talking about? And what she can't understand is why is he asking me about a film that I haven't made? And I think that is the core of what happens in that interview.
There's a fascinating little interchange where he says, as though it's just dawning on him for the first time, this might be possible. This is a woman's view of romance and sexuality. And she corrects him and says it's a specific women's view.
There were lots of other things going on in Ryan's life at the time of that interview, and I'm sure her split from Russell Crowe, whom she left her husband for, was a mitigating factor. But it shouldn't affect the film. The writing in the cut isn't the sharpest. The plot kind of clunks at times. But it's really well made, and Meg Ryan is really good in the lead. And if this is the film that ruined her career, then it's one hell of a film to go out on.
We get, as women, probably men too, but we get so sidetracked by romance, and we forget to look for the lasting thing and the thing that is most true. And this is, I think, Jane's real examination of those ideas.
I apologise for the quality of my voice in this video. As I record this, I had septoplasty yesterday, and my nose is currently in bandages. But I am still up and making content, so that's got to be worth a subscription, right? If you would like to send me some money to make my own feature film, currently in pre-production, you can do it via this site. And thanks in advance. I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie.